Hey guys, it's Wanda the Traveling Dutchie coming right at you from Costa Rica. Today's video is a bit of a heated subject, or it can be. You see, we're going to chat about tipping in Costa Rica. Sadly, I have been a witness of heated arguments whether you should tip in Costa Rica or whether you shouldn't. You see, in Costa Rica, tipping is not mandatory like it is in the United States. However, these days, it's very common for there to be some expectations on tipping in certain areas, especially for certain services. For example, for travelers that come vacation in Costa Rica, and especially if you're going to the touristy areas, there's definitely some expectation for you to tip. Now, you see, the locals here in Costa Rica don't tip for most services. Of course, there's expectations, but overall, the Ticos do not tip for certain services. So that leaves the current expats thinking, well, if the locals don't tip, why should I? Right? But the travelers need to tip. So you can see how this leads to discussion. So let's chat about it today. If you're new to this channel, I'm a Dutch expat and I have been living in Costa Rica for the last 16 years. With my channel, I'd like to inform you about my Costa Rica life. I would like to educate you on Costa Rica travel and also touch on the subject working while traveling. So today we're talking about tipping, and just to make sure I wouldn't get into any trouble, I actually checked with my Costa Rica family and with my Tico friends to make sure that everything I'm saying here is correct. So I asked them the question, what is the real deal about tipping in Costa Rica in all of your opinion? And so they told me Costa Rica is not a tipping culture. So I'm like, okay, so even if locals travel all over Costa Rica and you go on a hanging bridges tour, would you tip the guide? No. What if you stay at a hotel? Would you leave a tip for the maid? No. Bartenders? No. Then I went and asked, what about the restaurants? And there they said, oh, well, there the tip is already included. Now, this is a very interesting subject. Let's get into it a little bit more. First, let me show you a bill, typical bill that you would see in a restaurant here in Costa Rica. So here you can see the items on the bill. And beneath the subtotal, you see that they charge impuesto ventas. This is like a value-added tax, which is 13%. And then right beneath is the impuesto servicio of 10%. And this is a service fee of 10% that is referred to as a tip already being included. So you see, this is what the locals consider as a tip already being included, the service charge, so they won't tip on top of that. And again, this is the majority. Of course, there's exceptions. Sometimes they'll leave, if they're paying cash, they'll leave the change. But yeah, tipping in Costa Rica, according to the locals, is not a thing. But again, that doesn't mean you shouldn't tip, right? Especially if you're traveling here in Costa Rica. Oh my gosh, that tip is definitely so appreciated because the salaries here are not as high as, for example, in the United States, right? Okay. So now, let's say you're traveling through Costa Rica, what should you tip? At a restaurant, I'll leave that to you. Just always remember there's already 10% service charge. So in addition to that, if you thought the service was really good, maybe an additional 10%, that's completely up to you. It's going to be extremely appreciated. Now, I made a little list. So for example, a maid at a hotel, a good standard to leave is around $2 a day. Then if you'd be looking at the bellboys, would be around $1 a bag that they carry. A bartender, $1 a drink. And then a tour guide, like let's say you go on a canopy tour, $5 per person would be a nice standard to tip. And then transfers. Tourists actually often here in Costa Rica travel by minivan, and it would be nice to leave a trip for your driver. And here you can calculate $5 per hour of service. So now we get to the tricky part that a lot of us expats discuss, and where sadly there's heated discussion. It's just like, should the Costa Rica expats tip like the Costa Rica travelers or like the locals and not tip? So you can imagine it also depends on where you're from. So people from the United States can't imagine not leaving a tip. And then of course there's other countries where tipping is not common. So there will be discussions like, don't be so cheap. And others will say like, because of you people, you're driving up the prices. You see where this is going. At the end of the day, in my opinion, I think you should do what you feel is best. Now, you might wonder, well, great, Wanda, but what do? You've been in Costa Rica for 16 years. Obviously, I have a Tico family. I have Tico friends. I have expat friends. I go out to dinner a lot, and I travel a lot. Now, let me tell you what I do. This is my personal opinion on tipping in Costa Rica. So because I travel a lot and I work in the tourism industry as well, I tip my driver, the guide, the maid, especially if they've done a really good job. Of course, I leave a very small tip if they didn't do a good job. If they did a horrible job, I feel the need to let them know how they can improve. But luckily, I mean, traveling in Costa Rica, I mean, in the tourism industry, everybody is not only trained, they have a lot of experience, but naturally the Ticos are very friendly. So everything they do is con mucho gusto. So in the tourism industry, I think there's a high level standard of service. Now, if you would go to a local bank, the service is not great. However, that's a whole different story. So when I travel, I tip. So then what happens at a restaurant, right? So here it completely depends on who I'm with. So you see, if I'm with my Tico family, every now and then, we as a whole family go out to dinner. And I remember the first time we even brought up, like, so do we leave a tip in cash? Do we put it on the card? Oh my God, my head been off. We don't tip here, honey. Like, oh, okay, good to know. So now I even, like I said, I checked with all my Tico friends, and they're from, like, they don't know each other necessarily, so they have, like, different opinions, but they all do not leave an additional tip. So when I'm with them, I don't either. Then when I'm with my friends from the United States, I already know, of course, we're tipping. No problem, I'll tip. And then I have a nice European mix. And there, it just depends. So like if the service was really good, then there's always extra cash on the table, but it's not as common to tip as, for example, when I'm with my friends from the United States. So I do want to point out, I don't think it's anything to fight about. I never like it when you get into heated discussions. Like you always have to take into account, okay, where are people from and also what's their situation. I just think it's best to just not have any discussions about it and let everybody do what they think is best as an expat. But if you travel to Costa Rica, like I said, it is expected to tip in all these touristy areas. So you'd make the locals extremely happy, and you'll see you're gonna have an amazing time. Costa Rica is like paradise. I remember the first time I traveled here, I was just like, oh, it's like the nature is so beautiful. Sometimes it seems like fake. So anyhow, I hope you found this video helpful. You guys, I have over 120 different videos on my channel all about Costa Rica living, Costa Rica travel, working and traveling online. So make sure to check that out. There's a plane coming by. Sorry about that. So be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I also keep you posted on all the Costa Rica entry requirements. So be sure to hit that little bell icon so that you receive a notification every time I upload a new video regarding this. All right. So for now, bye from Costa Rica, and I hope to see you in the next video. Pura vida!